All right, let's just dive right into this massive multiversal puzzle, because today I am taking you on a ridiculously deep, meticulous dive into what is shaping up to be the most colossal cinematic collision we have literally ever witnessed. I'm going to break down the sheer scale of the dozen superhero teams confirmed or very heavily rumored to clash in the upcoming epic, Avengers Doomsday. Let me explain exactly how monumental this is. Think back for a second to the climax against Thanos. We saw the entire universe pool its resources to fight a singular linear threat. It was massive, right? But this is fundamentally different. We aren't just talking about protecting one single timeline anymore. This is about the complete and total collapse of the entire multiverse. The playing field has expanded exponentially. And because of that terrifying scale, the roster of defenders has shattered into over 10 distinct, incredibly powerful teams. We're talking everything from stream-level magic users to cosmic gods and even alternate reality variants of characters we already know. So settle in, because we are going to look at every single piece on this magnificent chessboard.
To actually make sense of this beautifully chaotic roster, without getting totally lost, I've structured our breakdown into 6 clear battlefronts. First, the multiversal threat begins. Second, Earth's reworked Vanguard. Third, cosmic heavy hitters. Fourth, mutants and alternate realities. Fifth, Spider-Man's solo journey. And finally, number 6, where does Doom stand?
Okay, before we even look at who is fighting, we absolutely must understand what they are fighting against. We are dealing with an incursion. By definition, this is the catastrophic collision of 2 alternate universes. Listen, this isn't just some villain flying a big scary ship into a city. This is literally the sky tearing wide open. It's 2 entire Earths occupying the exact same physical space, and reality itself essentially screaming until one, or honestly both, are completely wiped from existence. The stakes here just cannot be overstated. If our heroes fail, it doesn't mean subjugation or losing a war. It means absolute total annihilation. Every single team we are about to discuss is mobilizing strictly because the clock is ticking down to an absolute zero.
Let's start with Section 1. The multiversal threat begins. So let's explore who is actually on the front lines dealing with this reality-shattering problem right now. Let's examine the unique composition of Kamar-Taj forces. You've got Doctor Strange and Clea already out there, deep in the absolute darkest corners of the multiverse, actively investigating these collisions. They're essentially acting as our scouts. Meanwhile, back home, Sorcerer Supreme Wong is mobilizing an incredibly potent magical army. But actually wait, the absolute trump card here, the most crucial point you need to understand, is America Chavez. Her unique organic ability to traverse the multiverse makes her quite literally the most valuable logistical asset on the board. Period. When you add in heavy hitters like Master Hamir and Rintrah, who frankly haven't even had the chance to show us their full potential yet, you have Earth's true first line of defense. Think about it, they are the only ones who can actually see this threat coming before it's too late. Moving right along to Section 2, Earth's reworked Vanguard.
Now let's move back down to Earth 616 and see how our grounded defenders have completely restructured themselves. Let's look at the new OG Avengers. The original lineup is definitely leaner, now officially led by Sam Wilson, taking up the mantle of Captain America. He's managing a serious powerhouse team. You've got Thor and Captain Marvel, who, sure, are currently off-world, but you better believe they will absolutely return the second those incursion alarms start blaring. They are standing alongside Ant-Man, Shang-Chi, Professor Hulk, and War Machine. But the massive geopolitical shift on Earth is what makes this truly fascinating for me. They aren't alone anymore. They are now backed by the massive, unified armies of Wakanda, led by M'Baku, and the underwater empire of Talokan, led by Namor and Atuma. We're talking about 2 of the most technologically advanced and physically dominant military forces on the entire planet, ready to deploy instantly. This isn't just a tight-knit superhero squad anymore. This is a massive global coalition.
But Earth isn't just relying on Sam Wilson's shiny new coalition. Oh no, there is a secondary, highly volatile squad operating out of the old Avengers Tower, which is now dubbed the Watchtower. This is a government-sponsored wetwork team led by Yelena Belova. And the roster? It is packed full of morally gray operatives. Bucky Barnes, Red Guardian, Ghost, and John Walker. However, the absolute linchpin of this team, the only reason they matter on a true multiversal scale, is Bob. Bob possesses Sentry and Void-level powers. For those who know their lore, that is literally the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns packed into one guy. He is wildly, terrifyingly unpredictable, but he acts as their ultimate shield and heavy hitter.
Plus, there's a massive potential addition of Red Hulk on the horizon, adding just raw, seismic strength to a team that operates purely on tactical aggression and sheer, unfiltered force.
Meanwhile, completely off the radar of those official government channels, Kamala Khan is quietly building a fresh squad out on the West Coast. She's pulling together the scattered next generation of heroes. She's already recruited Kate Bishop, which is a great start. But what makes this Champions team, or Young Avengers if you prefer, so fascinating is the rumored mentorship angle. Having established entities like White Vision or Peter Quill sharing his insane cosmic experience, or even Sprite bringing literal eternal knowledge to the table, that elevates this group from a fun teen club to a highly capable, serious strike force. With potential scattered recruits like Wiccan, Speed, Cassie Lang, Riri Williams, and Hulk's son Scar, Kamala is essentially assembling a powder keg of raw, untapped potential. And trust me, that potential will be absolutely crucial when the seasoned heroes inevitably start to fall.
Let's shift our focus upward with Section 3, Cosmic Heavy Hitters.
Let's see who is protecting the cosmos while Earth is completely distracted with its own politics. Right now, the Eternals are deeply, deeply fractured. Out in deep space, you have Thena, Droog, and Makari desperately seeking allies to mount a full-blown rebellion against the Celestials. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Cersei, Kingo, and Phastos were captured by Airsham for judgment. Now you might be wondering, why does this specific divide matter for Doomsday? Well, it's because the Celestials are the literal architects of the universe. If reality itself is collapsing due to an incursion, the creators of that reality might just be forced to intervene, right? The Eternals serve as the direct bridge to bringing these unfathomable cosmic giants into the fight, potentially making the Celestials an unexpected, massive countermeasure against whoever or whatever is causing these incursions.
Operating out of nowhere, we also have the newly reformed Guardians of the Galaxy. Rocket Raccoon is really stepping up, proving to be a brilliant tactician as a leader. He's guiding a fresh team consisting of Cosmo, Kraglin, Phyla-Vell, and a massive King Groot. They're gaining vital, hands-on experience by protecting vulnerable planets all across the galaxy. But, actually, we really need to pause and talk about Adam Warlock for a second. I want to heavily emphasize this. His cosmic power level is just insane. It's off the charts. He operates on a scale that completely dwarfs most Earthbound heroes. In a war that threatens the very fabric of the cosmos, having an entity of his sheer magnitude on your side isn't just helpful, it will be absolutely decisive in the coming war. And of course, we cannot possibly talk about the cosmos, alternate realities, or multiversal physics without acknowledging Marvel's first family: Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, the Human Torch, and the Thing. Look, regardless of which universe they originate from, their collision course with Doctor Doom is a fixed point in time. It is an absolute, unavoidable certainty. They are destined to clash. More importantly, Mr. Fantastic's intellect is perhaps the single only weapon capable of dissecting the actual science of an incursion. You can't just punch a dying universe, right? That makes this team the intellectual vanguard against the coming collapse.
Which brings us to the tipping point. Section 4, Mutants and Alternate Realities.
Now we're getting into the characters bleeding in from entirely different dimensions. Let me explain exactly what is coming here, because the implications are huge. Remember the timeline established at the very end of the Marvels, where Monica Rambeau woke up in a parallel dimension? Listen, that wasn't just a fun little cameo to make us cheer in the theater. That specific universe is hurtling toward a massive, inescapable incursion with our main Earth 616. These two realities are on a direct, high-speed collision course. This means we aren't just getting a few friendly visitors crossing over. We are getting a brutal war of survival between two fully populated, distinct dimensions.
Because of this catastrophic collision, a phenomenal, fully confirmed roster of X-Men is going to be dragged straight into the dead center of the battlefield. I mean, we're talking about the absolute heavyweights here. Professor X, Magneto, Cyclops, Mystique, Nightcrawler, Beast, and Binary. These aren't rookies. These are hardened veterans of survival. Bringing the X-Men into a multiversal war fundamentally changes the power dynamics of everything we've talked about so far. Think about Magneto's control over planetary magnetic fields, or Professor X's global spanning telepathy. Those are the exact kinds of assets that Earth 616 desperately needs right now. Provided, of course, that they don't end up fighting each other for survival first.
Now, considering all this dimensional blending, we really must ask a critical question. The Illuminati, as we saw in the Multiverse of Madness, is technically the one single team actually designed and prepared to handle incursions. That was their whole job. But their ranks in that specific universe were completely decimated. So we have to look back at that empty chair we saw in their chamber. Who does it belong to? Does that empty chair belong to a variant of Dr. Doom? Or, maybe a superior Iron Man, as some of that early concept art suggested? The reconstruction of an Illuminati, a dark shadow council willing to literally destroy other worlds to save their own, is a grim, necessary inevitability in an incursion event like this.
At the exact same time all of this is happening, outside of time itself, the Time Variance Authority is running a massive, desperate rescue operation. Under the distant oversight of time god Loki sitting at the end of time, and catalyzed by the beautifully chaotic events surrounding Deadpool and Wolverine, the TVA is desperately pulling together a true multiversal Avengers team. Their mission? Rescuing incredibly powerful legacy characters from timelines that are actively dying right now, to save existence itself. This is exactly how we potentially see the return of titans like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I want you to realize, they aren't just dropping in for a fun, nostalgic team-up. They are literal multiversal refugees fighting for the survival of the last remaining scraps of reality.
With all these massive teams forming, let's look at Section 5, Spider-Man's Solo Journey.
There is one glaring, isolated outlier in all of this. Right now, Spider-Man is totally alone, operating purely on a street level. No Avengers backing him up. But here is the incredible loophole that everyone seems to be completely overlooking: the actual nature of Doctor Strange's spell. It is highly probable that the memory wipe was limited strictly to the planetary boundaries of Earth. Think about that for a second. That means off-world heroes like Rocket, Groot, Adam Warlock, or even the Hulk, who frequently travels off-world, might actually still remember exactly who Peter Parker is. This single amazing loophole could be the exact key to bringing Peter back into the grand cosmic fold.
And honestly, he desperately needs to be brought back in. Because despite currently having absolutely no team, no Stark tech, and no backing, recent production shifts and narrative threads heavily imply one massive thing. Spider-Man will actually be the #1 focal point of this entire multiversal event. He is the anchor. All the delays and scheduling pivots we've seen behind the scenes point to ensuring Peter Parker is front and center when the sky finally falls. His deeply grounded morality is the absolute perfect counterweight to the insane, mind-bending cosmic scale of an incursion. We need that human element.
Finally, let's wrap this up with Section 6, Where does Doom stand?
So, we have explored the magic users, the reworked Earth armies, the cosmic gods, the mutants, and the isolated street-level heroes. But all of these complex, moving parts finally converge on one single defining figure. As over 10 different factions, hundreds of heroes, and entire global armies assemble to stop reality from collapsing, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. We naturally assume Dr. Doom is the cause of all this, right? The ultimate villain pulling the strings. But what if he isn't? What if Dr. Doom looks at a collapsing multiverse and decides that the absolute only way to save existence is to completely rule it? Will Dr. Doom actually turn out to be their greatest, most brilliant ally, or the architect of their ultimate destruction? The board is set, the pieces are moving, and the collision is absolutely inevitable. Keep questioning everything, and I will see you next time.
Let's dive right into this, because we need to talk about the climax of the Infinity Saga. For years now, you and I, and frankly the entire world, have accepted a very specific narrative about how everything went down. We all watched the absolute heartbreak on Titan. We watched Doctor Strange make what looked like an impossible, selfless choice. But today, I am going to reveal a massive, mind-bending secret about Infinity War that completely rewrites that history. I'm telling you, if you think you understand exactly why Doctor Strange surrendered the Time Stone to Thanos, I need you to completely reset your expectations. We are going to break down a sequence of events that turns what we thought was the ultimate tale of heroism into a chilling, deeply calculated conspiracy. So buckle up, let me explain the true endgame. Let's start with a number that is permanently burned into our collective memories. 14 million, or to be exact, over 14 million alternate futures. We all vividly remember that iconic scene on Titan, right? Strange drops into this deep, floating, meditative trance, his head twitching rapidly as he literally fast-forwards through the fabric of time itself, desperately searching for an outcome where they win. And we all just blindly assumed, mostly because it was the most obvious answer handed to us, that Thanos was this ultimate, impossible puzzle. We thought he was looking through 14 million futures just to find one solitary, incredibly lucky way to beat the Mad Titan. But let me explain why that assumption is entirely, fundamentally wrong. Here is the absolute, crucial truth of the matter. Thanos wasn't the actual target of Doctor Strange's desperate search. Think about it for a second. Think about the sheer combined power of the Avengers, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and their allies scattered across that battlefield on Titan and back on Earth in Wakanda. When you factor in that much raw, unadulterated power, there were actually thousands of ways to kill the Mad Titan. Strange did not need 14 million timelines to figure out how to stop one guy with a fancy glove. So if victory against Thanos was actually that easy to find, why did he keep searching? Why did he push his own mind to the absolute brink of sanity? Because Doctor Strange was looking for an anomaly that terrified him far, far more than Thanos ever could.
Part 1, the Green Armored Savior, an easy possibility. Now, to really understand what Strange was doing, we have to look at his methodology.
He started by searching for the absolute easiest timeline to win the war, the path of least resistance. And very early in his temporal search, he stumbled upon a timeline that initially looked like an absolute, undeniable miracle. In this specific, quote-unquote, easy timeline, just when all hope seems lost and Thanos is bearing down on them, the entire battlefield shifts. I want you to picture this. Out of nowhere, an incredibly powerful, mysterious figure wearing intimidating green armor just descends from the sky. He radiates this intense level of cosmic power that completely dwarfs absolutely everything around him. He just steps effortlessly between the battered Avengers and Thanos. And the immediate question that hits Strange, and frankly would hit any of us, is obvious. Who is the man in green armor? Where in the multiverse did he come from? And why is he intervening right now? Well, this next moment brilliantly illustrates just how insanely powerful this newcomer really is. The man in green armor doesn't engage in a drawn-out, bloody 20-minute battle. He doesn't struggle. He doesn't even break a sweat. He takes down Thanos, the ultimate universe-ending threat that our heroes have sacrificed literally everything to fight, with a single effortless punch. Think about the terrifying gravity of that for a second. The Mad Titan, the biggest threat to reality they've ever faced, is just swatted away like a minor nuisance. It's an unbelievable, terrifying display of sheer, absolute dominance. Part 2, a multiverse destroyed. Looking further ahead. So, what happens next? A lesser sorcerer might have stopped right there. They might have said, great, Thanos is dead, we win, let's just make sure we trigger whatever butterfly effect makes this green armored guy show up. But Stephen Strange is the Sorcerer Supreme. His instincts were absolutely screaming at him. He knew that unprecedented, godlike power never, ever arrives without universe-altering consequences. So he made the fateful, terrifying decision to look even further ahead into the timeline. As Strange pushes his vision years into the future of this specific reality, it turns into this high-stakes temporal investigation. He needs to uncover the true intentions of this insanely powerful being. The burning question becomes, is this man a savior, a hero who arrived in the nick of time? Or is he a villain whose threat level far, far exceeds the Titan they just defeated? Strange watches, and he waits, observing exactly what this man does with a universe that has been conveniently cleared of Thanos. Let's trace the escalation of this timeline very carefully, because this is where the true horror sets in. In the present, Thanos is easily defeated. It's the easy victory, everyone cheers. But as we look toward the future, Strange witnesses a terrifying, unimaginable escalation. The very man who saved them eventually goes on to completely annihilate the entire multiverse. Not a planet, not half the universe, the multiverse. There was no army, no magic, no cosmic force that could even slow him down. Strange realizes with absolute icy dread that he hasn't found a timeline where they win. He has found a timeline where they lose everything, across every single conceivable reality. Let me slow down here to really emphasize the sheer brutality of what Doctor Strange saw. This being in the green armor didn't just passively rewrite reality with the snap of his fingers from afar. He actively massacred the Avengers. He showed absolutely no mercy. The Earth's mightiest heroes were crushed like insects. The people Strange fought alongside, the sworn protectors of the universe, were rendered utterly helpless, slaughtered by this unstoppable green armored force. Part 3, the shocking face reveal, the ultimate betrayal. So Strange is watching this unfold. He's watching the multiverse burn. He is watching his allies be completely destroyed. And then the climactic moment comes. The green armor opens, the metallic mask comes off. Strange finally gets to look beneath the suit to see exactly whose face belongs to the monster responsible for the end of all things. It was Tony Stark. Just let the absolute horror of that sink in for a minute. The man destined to become Doctor Doom, the man who destroys the entire multiverse, the man who crushes the Avengers like insects, is Tony Stark. This is the ultimate betrayal of absolutely everything they stood for. Doctor Strange wasn't just looking at some distant future conqueror from another dimension. He was looking at one of their own. He was looking at the very man standing right next to him on the ruined, dusty surface of Titan. Part 4. The real endgame plan. A cold calculation. Seeing this terrifying vision chilled Doctor Strange to his absolute core. He realized right then and there that the thousands of easy ways to defeat Thanos all carried the exact same fatal flaw. They kept Tony Stark alive long enough to eventually become this multiverse-destroying entity. Once Doctor Doom existed, the game was permanently over. Therefore, Strange was forced to orchestrate a much darker, incredibly secret plan formulated entirely in his own mind right there on the battlefield. Strange realized the ultimate, unavoidable truth of the universe. Tony Stark must die to save reality. If Tony lives, the multiverse eventually dies. It's a simple, brutal, and terrifying calculation. Strange wasn't just planning for the defeat of Thanos anymore. No, he was actively, meticulously planning the demise of Tony Stark. He had to construct a very specific sequence of events. One singular, convoluted path where Thanos is ultimately defeated, but Tony Stark does not survive the aftermath. And you know, this chilling logic completely recontextualizes one of the most iconic moments in cinema history. When Strange freely gives up the Time Stone to save Tony's life on Titan, it wasn't an act of mercy. It wasn't him just being a good guy. It was a deeply calculated, manipulative move to win Tony Stark's absolute, unwavering trust. By proving he would sacrifice the universe's greatest weapon just to spare Tony, Strange ensured that years later, when the crucial moment finally arrived, Tony would trust Strange's signal, that one single raised finger. He manipulated the board so that Tony would make the ultimate sacrifice himself, thinking it was the only way to beat Thanos, when in reality, it was the only way to stop Tony.
Which brings us to a final, lingering thought that I think changes how we view this entire cinematic universe forever. Was Strange's ultimate victory actually a calculated, premeditated murder? We have always viewed Endgame as this beautiful story of a hero making a tragic but noble sacrifice for the greater good. But if we follow the breadcrumbs of those 14 million futures, we see a Sorcerer Supreme who recognized a cosmic threat wearing the face of a friend. He manipulated time, he manipulated space, and he manipulated human emotion to ensure that Tony Stark's story ended before he could ever put on that green armor. It absolutely forces us to permanently reevaluate Doctor Strange's morality and ask ourselves, what is the true hidden cost of saving the multiverse? Think about that next time you watch it.